No one? Well, thanks to everyone for jumping on. We appreciate you guys taking time out of your Wednesday at 6 o'clock when I'm sure you're either getting off of work or wanting to cook dinner or maybe go work out to learn a little bit about the buying process, which is a process, and more importantly, getting started with that process. So with that said, we'll jump right into the presentation. We're going to talk tonight about virtual home buying, which is going to be really making sure that we're preparing you for what is to come, because there is a lot to do. My name is Luis. My name is Luis Peraza. I do work alongside my mom, Leslie. She's been in the industry for 20 years, and I'll let her introduce herself here shortly. I've been in the industry almost 4 years in April, and we help a lot of first-time buyers, a lot of move-up buyers, and a lot of investors that are looking to grow their real estate portfolio. There's no such thing as a wrong question or a stupid question, because the market's changing every day, and it's important to be continually educated on the ins and outs of the real estate market. So, Leslie, do you want to go ahead and say a couple of things? I think you're muted.
There you go. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Leslie Peraza. I've been a realtor for 20 years. I've been an investor for 30 years, and I absolutely love helping first-time buyers, investors build their generational wealth. So this is something that is very dear to my heart, and more than anything is learning. I have a bachelor's in social work from San Diego State University, and as you know, my son works with me over 4 years now, and we're here to help. We're here to educate, and yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
I will let Celina also introduce herself here shortly. She is our lender. She'll have her little spiel in the middle of the presentation, but I think it'll be important to have her introduce herself now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Celina Tominna. I have been in the mortgage industry for a little over 18 years now, and helping first-time home buyers or investors, or just looking to work with your equity, whatever it is, we're here to help, and more importantly, educate the community so that we can continue to grow in home ownership.
Thanks, Celina. So with that said, we'll jump right into this. And since there is quite a few people on, we will hold your questions till the end. If something comes up or a question or a concern, write it down. And at the end, we'll have a little Q&A. But for now, we'll just run through the presentation. We do have a couple topics we're going to talk about. That's going to be including the pros and cons of buying, the types of properties that are out there. Celina will talk about financing options. We'll talk about exactly the home buying process once we're in the home search process and once we're in escrow. And then we'll recap with what's happening in the market today and what we see moving forward in 2024 and after that. One thing we really like to emphasize, especially being a family business, is that it's not about real estate. It's about changing lives, and we really abide by that when we're helping our clients make big decisions, whether they're buying or selling. It's important that their best interest is at the forefront of our service, because the last thing we want from you is to feel that maybe we didn't represent you correctly, right? And our business over the last 20 years has grown on referrals and word of mouth. And the way we like to think about it is, if we do a good job for you, you're going to refer us, and you're going to be our biggest cheerleaders with your friends and family. So we take that super serious here. I'll have Leslie chat a little bit about the pros and cons of buying a home.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that. Obviously, equity. Over time, your equity value will increase and allow you to leverage into buying your next home. So this is actually the benefit of investing in real estate because, like everyone, right? We buy something and we want it to grow in value. And so that's just with time. If you purchase a condo today, expecting that to grow in value in 12 months, you're buying for the wrong reason. So time will definitely help when it comes down to equity. So we'll, like I said, mention a little bit more about that. We'll talk a little bit about the benefits of that as we move on with this presentation. Another pro is tax write-offs. Mortgage interest and property taxes are tax deductible and they will lower the federal tax debt. So again, that's one of the benefits. And obviously the upfront cost, down payment, closing costs, inspections, and repairs are a big initial investment as well. So these are a little bit about the pros of buying real estate. Another one is obviously maintenance and repair costs. Your home means it's your responsibility to upkeep all things related to your home. So like with any investment, you know, we all love buying a brand new home, but you know, when you buy something older, you have to maintain it like anything. And so when you're buying an investment, you have to look at, you know, maintaining the most important things of buying an investment property or even your first home will be the roof, obviously electricity, the plumbing, the AC or the furnace, and obviously the, what is it, the sewer or the slab. So we want to make sure all of that is being maintained. So that's one of the pros of that. Also, another one would be generational wealth. A homeowner's net worth is 40% more than a renter's. So think about how this can help you and your family in the future. So generational wealth is just buying something today, keeping it, possibly renting that out, and then buying another property. And I know Celina will talk a little bit about leveraging. Once you purchase your first home, you don't have to wait 10 years to buy another home. This is where we want to be here to teach you how you build your generational wealth. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that. And then obviously your home, your upgrades. You're in full control of the upgrades you want to do, the materials you want to use, the paint color you want. This is the beauty of owning your own home, is you're in charge of that. Nobody's going to tell you can't, you know, you can't paint your living room green or purple or whatever. You know, you own this, compared to like if you are a tenant, you have to ask for permission. And then if you are living there 1 or 2 years and then you move out, now you have to pay for certain things that you might have done to the property while you were renting. So nothing like owning your own home and being in control of what you can do to it.
Thank you. So really briefly to set the stage, we'll chat about the different types of homes. So the popular home style is a single family residence. This is a home that's totally freestanding. They have no shared walls and you own the land that's under you. Okay. So these are homes when you go through East Lake, it has its own yard, there's fences, you have, 20 to 30 feet between your property and the next one. That's what a single family home is. The most important piece is understanding that you don't share a common wall with someone. The next type of home is a townhome. Townhomes are a very good middle ground between a single family home and a condominium. And I'll explain condominium in a second. A townhouse is often multiple floors, so anywhere between 2, 3, or 4 stories, and at least one of the walls is being shared with a neighbor. So these are usually, big apartment complexes, so to speak, where there's townhomes that are one next to the other. It's not very often that a townhome, if ever, that a townhome has a neighbor either above or below you. That's going to be more like a condo. So a condo is usually in a complex with 4, 5, 6 stories, and you're sharing multiple walls, and most likely you have someone above or below the unit. So these are 3 common home types, especially here in San Diego, that you'll see. Some properties that we don't talk about or aren't talking about today are manufactured homes, mobile homes, and maybe modular homes in certain areas. Those aren't as traditional in this in this community or in this part of the country. But you will see single family homes, townhouses, and condominiums pretty often here. They all have their pros and cons. They all have different different equity growth trajectories and things like that. And there's different value in rent as well. So the biggest thing that we always emphasize is making sure that you're buying in the right locations and in a safe neighborhood, so that no matter if it's a single family home, a townhouse, or a condo, you're always going to be in a good investment opportunity down the road to either rent it out or sell it to move up into something bigger or something different. Land is a popular topic that people talk about right now. In San Diego, it's really difficult, honestly, to find land that is prime, right? That is premier. In different parts of the country, land is a little more easily attainable. If I had to put a couple cities in San Diego that do offer land, it would be areas like Ramona, Alpine, Lakeside, Escondido. But then you have two types of land. There's raw land and there's developed land. Raw land is going to be literally dirt. It might be in the middle of nowhere, and it's not going to have really any utilities or any immediate use attached to it. Developed land is often going to be near your sewer lines that are from the city, your electricity, your plumbing, and all of those very important components to make sure someone can live in a property safely. That's what developed land is going to be. And again, it's very difficult or it's rare that you find those here in San Diego. So now we're going to have Celina chat a little bit about loan options, the loan process, and what she sees in the market.
Hello, everyone. So we are going to start with our government loans. And first, we're going to work on what's called a VA loan. So VA loan is for veterans, whether they're active duty, on reserve, or separated from service. If they have served in the military for a certain amount of time, it's 180 days, they do have access to what is called a VA loan. A VA loan requires zero down payment. So that means that they can finance 100% of the purchase price on the home. They don't have to come in with a down payment. It doesn't mean that there are no funds to close from the veteran. It just means that they don't have a down payment. There's also no minimum FICO score requirement, as long as they meet their residual income and any other VA guidelines that, are required. And another huge benefit to the VA loan is that there's no mortgage insurance. So VA is by far the best loan out, just because of all of the benefits and also the leniency of it, because VA backs these loans. The guidelines are not as strict as other types of loans. So next we're going to go into our most popular loan, which is an FHA loan. The past couple of years, FHA wasn't as advantageous as conventional due to the mortgage insurance, but this year the government has come in and lowered the mortgage insurance premium on it. So FHA offers a minimum down payment of 3.5% down with as low as 580 FICO score. So going back to the mortgage insurance, FHA does have monthly mortgage insurance and a one-time upfront mortgage insurance. So mortgage insurance basically is held in a government fund. Should there ever be any type of default on the mortgage, the government can then come in and cover a percentage of the losses so that the banks don't go under should there be massive losses of homes or foreclosures throughout the country. So you pay mortgage insurance to the bank to protect the bank because of the lower down payment.
And Celina, what is that common mortgage insurance cost for someone who's buying a home that's, I don't know, 750,000?
So mortgage insurance with FHA, the benefit of it with FHA is that it is not based off of credit score. It's not based off of the property type or even how much you're putting down. With FHA, it's a flat rate across the board. It also is for the life of the loan. So going back to your question, if we had a $700,000 purchase price and you put the minimum 3.5% down, so I'm going to do the math real quick just to kind of give you. So you're looking about $281 a month added to your payment in mortgage insurance. So in order to remove this from your loan, you would have to refinance out of an FHA loan and into a conventional loan. If you were to put 10% down or more on an FHA loan, the mortgage insurance would fall off automatically once you pay 11 years into the mortgage.
Got it. Thank you.
FHA is a great option if you have lower FICO scores, higher debt to income ratios. If you have low down payment, like the 3.5% down, FHA is a great option because, like I said, it's a fixed amount. Typically, FHA rates are much lower than conventional. So this might be a great option for you if that's the case. We always look at all options when reviewing the loan. And next we have what is called a conventional loan. So a conventional loan is backed by Fannie or Freddie Mac. So they're very similar. Some have slightly different guidelines that we can, depending if you're self-employed, one might have guidelines than the other, or in terms of student loan, for example, with student loans, Fannie Mae is 1% of the loan balance we have to apply towards a payment, where Freddie Mac is 0.5% of the loan balance. So they're very similar, but they just have slight differences in their guidelines. So depending on your circumstances, we look at both options to see which one's going to be most advantageous to proceed with. So as a first-time home buyer, you can come in with as low as 3% down payment. If you're not a first-time home buyer, you do not need 20% down. You can put as low as 5% down if you're not a first-time home buyer. Okay. The minimum FICO score is 620, and the mortgage insurance with conventional, there's different ways to manage mortgage insurance. So with FHA, it's a fixed amount. You're going to pay it for the life of the loan unless you put 10% down. But with conventional, you can pay it in your monthly payment. You can pay a one-time cost to completely eliminate it from your mortgage payment, or you can do what's called lender-paid mortgage insurance, where we increase the rate to cover that mortgage insurance. So you're not paying it in your mortgage payment, you're paying it in the interest. So there's benefits to that because interest is tax deductible. Now, when we're talking about mortgage insurance with conventional loans, it is going to be dependent on the amount of the mortgage insurance will vary on your down payment, your FICO score, if there's one or more borrowers on the loan, property type, debt to income ratios, and loan to value. So all of these factors determine what the mortgage insurance premium is. Now, if you were to put 3% down or 15% down, that mortgage insurance will fall off once you have that 20% equity in your home. Now, say for example, we go into a market where properties are not appreciating as quickly as they have in prior years, then it's when you pay your mortgage balance down and you have from when you purchase the property, that mortgage insurance will still fall off. So there's always opportunity to lower your payment with a conventional loan once that mortgage insurance falls off.
Thank you.
So now going into down payment assistance options, there are some great options that are going to be hitting our market at the beginning of the year. So currently right now, we do have city and county programs where they offer up to 17% of the purchase price towards your down payment. So you would only have to come in with 3% down. Now, these programs are based off of zip code, as well as income is depending on family size, how much you can qualify for, and if you qualify for the program. So these programs do require, their guidelines are so much stricter only because we are borrowing money from the state or county to help you purchase. But they're very doable. They have great options. The interest rate on the county and city program are, very, very low rates. They're standard rates actually. Now, when you go into the state program is going to give you 3% down and also 2% towards your closing costs. Now, all three, city, county, and state loans, those down payments are loans. They are not forgivable. You have to pay them back. But you don't pay them back until you either sell, refinance, or pay off your mortgage in that 30-year term. When it comes to the city and the county program, those loans will have to be paid back if you are no longer occupying the property. And they do check every year to make sure that you are occupying that property. So city and county programs, if you're no longer living there, you have to pay them back. With the state program, they do not check it, and that loan has to be paid back either at the 30-year term or should you sell or refinance your home. Okay, there are some forgivable grants and loans. So those would all be piggybacks to any of these programs. So just depending on income, credit, and also zip code, census, neighborhood area, there are some programs. Right now there's $5,000 in conventional loan depending on the census tract that you live in. So there are more and more forgivable loans coming out. It's just really depending. So we have to analyze each situation very carefully because the money can run out. We are also going to be seeing another loan that's going to come out. It's a down payment assistance program. And this one is going to be a shared equity, where a percentage of the equity that you gain over the life of the loan gets paid back along with whatever was lent to you towards the down payment. So those details will come out early next year, but we'll keep you posted. We'll have another class on those as soon as we have more details. So there's some really exciting down payment assistance programs coming out in 2024.
Thank you. And we don't have a slide for this, but tell us a little bit about, maybe some creative financing options like bank statement loans, hard money loans, bridge loans, HELOCs. Give us a little bit of, maybe pick one or two to talk about. And if someone has further questions, we can go in deeper later.
Yeah, so it's really exciting because right now, and so what we just talked about are really conventional conforming loans. These are standard loans that you can obtain with proper income documentation and assets. Now, if we want to get creative, if you're self-employed, we can do anywhere between 12 to 24 month bank statement loans where we analyze deposits. If it's business bank statements, we can use 100% of those deposits as income. If they're personal bank statements, we're using 50% of the deposits as income. So that's another way where if you're not maybe claiming all of your income in your taxes, we can use bank statements to verify income. Another really popular program that, you know, I have been working with is a P&L loan. A P&L loan is for also self-employed buyers, and we get a profit and loss statement, and it's a 12-month profit and loss statement and a letter from the CPA. And we basically use the income that is on that profit and loss statement to verify your income, along with the CPA who files your taxes to just legitimize the profit and loss. That's a great program as well. For the bank statement program, you can come in with as little as 10% down with no mortgage insurance. And the P&L loan is 20% down. We also have P&L bank statement for national loans. Those are also, we're looking at 30% down for foreign national loans. And for national loans, we just need foreign credit and your bank statement showing where the funds are coming from. So those are also very streamlined loans. Oftentimes, these non-qualified mortgages that have these other options that where we can really get creative in our financing, the rates are typically higher than your standard conventional FHA loans, but it helps you get into a home and maybe not pay so much in income taxes on your tax returns. So now you're utilizing that money towards your down payment. So it's really just analyzing everything to make sure that we find the right program for you. And then we could talk about home equity loans. So there's a home equity loan and there's a HELOC. A home equity loan is going to be anywhere between 15 to 30-year fixed. That money is going to be no more than 80% of your loan to value. So loan to value, how much is your property worth versus how much do you owe? The equity is the difference. And that's where we can borrow. So there always has to be about 20% left in your home, in the equity of your home. It has to stay there. The banks don't want to lend 100% financing. So we take a portion of that equity and we can either do a loan, a fixed mortgage, where they give you the money up front, you pay it every month back, and you can have up to a 3 to 5 year draw period. So as you pay it back, you can borrow from it again. And it's fixed for 30 years, 15 or 20, okay? Or you can get what's called a HELOC. The HELOC is going to be an equity line of credit. Exactly the way we utilize the equity on the loan, you're going to do the same thing with the HELOC. We can only use a percentage of your equity. And they're not going to give you that money up front, but you're going to be able to utilize it as you need it. Every time you pull from that money, the rate is based off of the prime. So let's just say if you got 200,000 and you don't have the money right now, okay, but you need it in 2 months. So if in 2 months we have right now our prime rate is 8.5% plus whatever the margin is. So let's say you're at 14%. Now, in 2 months, the rate that margin comes down, you're going to borrow at a lower interest. If it goes up and you pull money from it again, you're going to borrow at a higher interest. So every time you pull from that money, it can vary depending on what the prime and margin are at the time, as opposed to the home equity loan that's fixed. You're pulling that money, you're getting it, and it's a fixed amount. That's what you're going to pay on it. So there's 2 different variations. Depending on what the goal is where we look at which option would best fit your needs. Okay.
For that home, No. For that home equity loan specifically, let's assume that we take out 100,000 and the rate today is 10%. And in a year from now, that rate is 7%. Are we able to refinance just that home equity loan, or do we have to refinance the whole mortgage on the home?
You will be able to refinance just the home equity loan. You don't have to do a complete refinance, consolidating both mortgages. You can do just the home equity loan. Okay, but it would be a brand new loan based off of the rates at that time.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. So what do you need to get started? Very simple. You contact me and I will send you a link to start your application online. That is the most efficient way to get started. Through this secure portal, you will also be able to upload your ID or passport, 2 most recent bank statements, 2 most recent pay stubs. If you get paid once a month, just your most recent pay stub. W-2s for the last 2 years, so 2022, 2021, along with your tax returns or 1099s. If you are self-employed, we also require business tax returns, so those are either 1120S or should they be trust corporate tax returns. We want to see it all because the more information we have, the better we can analyze which program is going to fit your needs. And then we can always take out whatever is not necessary. So it's better to provide me with more documentation than less. It allows me to really just see all of the options that are available to you. If you are a veteran, then your DD 214, if you receive disability or pension, also that pension award letter. The same thing if you're retired and you receive Social Security, it would just be the Social Security award letter, and then we would document the payments through your bank statements. Okay.
So the next thing we want to talk about is assuming that you got approved with Celina, you're approved and ready to go buy a home. It's time to go home shopping. And so we want to talk a little bit about what sellers are obligated to. We'll talk a little bit about now how buyers are obligated as a buyer with the buyer's agent. And then I'll talk about the actual home shopping process. So before a home goes on the market, a seller contacts an agent like Leslie or I and basically says, I'm ready to sell my home. What they have to then commit to is what's called a residential listing agreement. So that listing agent, that selling agent, is going to talk to that seller about what their home is worth, what suggestions they have to list the home for sale, and they enter into a contract that essentially states the seller is committed to the seller's agent because we're going to be working as a team and we're going to be putting a lot of effort to make sure that you get as much money for your home as possible and as quickly as possible. Okay. They normally, traditionally, are talking to that listing agent, that selling agent, to negotiate commission. In the state of California, the seller traditionally is paying for the buyer's representation, okay, the buyer's agent. So if I'm the selling agent and I'm talking to my seller and I negotiate, for example, a 10% commission fee from the sales price, I have usually 98% of the time right now, am talking to that seller about making sure that part of that commission is going to go to the buyer's representative to make sure that they're being compensated and they're being rewarded for bringing you as a seller a buyer to the home, okay? So now as a buyer's agent, we want to make sure that we're offering the best representation for you and really committing to you as a team. Because as you jump into this, whether it's home buying process or home selling process, it's really important to be open communicators to make sure we're all on the same page and really have that team dynamic between both sides, and really 3 sides, including the lender and Celina. So this right here is a screenshot of a buyer representation agreement just like the seller has one with the selling agent, buyers have one with their buyer's agent. So a couple things that this really is bringing forward. As a buyer, you have the opportunity to interview as many agents as you want to make sure that you're working with someone that is the right fit for you and your family. This is a huge buying decision, right? And you want to make sure that once you have an offer accepted, and once you get your keys, and once you're making your monthly payments, that you are really happy and content with the service that you received and in the home that you ended up purchasing. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that you interview a couple agents and make sure that you're finding the right person for you. This buyer representation agreement is really a commitment to make sure that us as buyer's agents are providing you the proper opportunities to make sure that you're going to succeed and you're going to get the best deal possible. It's a binding commitment between you as a buyer and us as a buyer's agent to make sure we're upholding our ends, right? As a buyer, I expect you to be open and honest and give us feedback on what you're liking, what you're not liking, what your financial situation is like. And now you're going to also expect from us as your buyer's agent to make sure that we're bringing you properties that are never on the market. We're negotiating on your behalf to make sure you're getting credits for closing costs. And at the end of the day, really making sure that you're being protected if maybe there's a roof that's collapsing, and we're going to be the first ones to tell you that, you know what, that's probably not the best purchase decision for you. So this buyer representation agreement is an opportunity to have that open communication and really have that team dynamic come into play. Again, traditionally, sellers are covering the buyer's representation commission. But in the event that they're not, or in the event that they're not covering a certain amount of it, Leslie and I, on average, as a buyer's agent, will work for 2% of the purchase price or more. So in the event, and it's totally a case-by-case basis, but in the event that a seller's not willing to pay us that 2%, let's assume they're paying 1%. Because we're working so hard and because we do have this agreement, we want to make sure that you are willing and able to compensate that 1% of the commission agreement. Because we spend a lot of time with our buyers and we really work super, super hard to make sure that you're getting the right property for your family and for your situation. So again, this is very case by case, but I will say that on average, as a buyer's agent, we are being compensated 2 to 3% of the purchase price. With that said, we'll talk a little bit about how we're going to protect you as a buyer, because again, that's why we're being hired. You can walk into an open house and you can meet someone at the open house for the first time and write an offer on that property, but you got to be very careful as to whether or not they're really looking out for your best interest. So us as a buyer's agent, we take a lot of responsibility to make sure you know exactly what you're signing, when you're signing it, and why you're signing it. So a couple key things a couple different milestones I want to talk about in the escrow process. We're going to go home shopping tomorrow, and you're going to fall in love with 123 Banana Street. We're going to write an offer and it's going to get accepted. Okay, so today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday. Let's say tomorrow we open escrow. Okay, escrow is a time period anywhere between 14 to 30 days here in San Diego that there's a contractual obligation between a buyer and a seller to come to an agreement and officially hand over the ownership to the new buyer. In those 14 to 30 days, there's a couple protections that you have as a buyer. They're called contingencies. The 3 contingencies that are the most important and the most common are going to be the inspection contingency, the appraisal contingency, and the loan contingency. Those 3 items are going to be milestones that we want to make sure you're still comfortable checking off the box and moving forward with the transaction and actually purchasing that home. So within the first couple of days of getting your offer accepted, we're going to order an inspection. We have licensed general home inspectors that are going to go and they're going to check the roof, the furnace, the air conditioning, the plumbing, the electrical, foundation, making sure there's no safety items, making sure there's no, cracks in the door frames or any exposed wires in the electrical, to make sure that you know what you're purchasing. Okay. If at any point we see a major red flag, we're going to be the first ones to tell you, you know what, Sarah, I don't know if this is something that's the right fit for you. Let's talk about this. Okay. In that moment, let's assume that there's 5 items that are not up to par, right? Or that are of concern. There is still an opportunity to renegotiate with the seller as to having them either fix those concerns or give the buyer a credit to fix them after we close. If at some point we don't agree, you as a buyer are still protected to cancel, walk away from the property, and walk away with your deposit to make sure you're ready to go and shop again for the next home. Okay, so that's inspection. Appraisal is going to be a third party that the bank is going to send out once your loan is submitted by Celina to the bank to make sure that whatever the contract price is actually what the home is worth. So they're going to take a look at what has sold in the area, what condition those properties are in, and they're going to go physically to the property to make sure that the home is in safe condition to actually live in. Okay. So appraisers are going to make sure there's no cracked windows. They're going to make sure that there's smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, make sure there's no chipping paint, especially if the home is built before 1978, because that's when lead-based paint was outlawed. They're going to make sure that there's no mold issues or any leaky ceilings and things like that. They really want to make sure that once you have the home and once the bank is lending you 500, 600, 700,000, that home is in good condition for you to live in it right away. Okay. If at some point that appraiser says there's something wrong with the home, well, then again, we get to go and renegotiate with the seller to make sure that those safety concerns are fixed. Okay. The appraiser is also going to make sure that the home is worth what the contract says it is. So if we have an offer accepted for 750,000 and the appraiser comes out and says the property is worth 750,000, then we're good to go, right? The contract says what the market says is it's also worth. Okay. 2 other things could happen. The appraiser could come back and say, you know what, I think the value is worth more than what you're buying it for. Some people think that as a buyer, you have to pay the difference in that, but that's not true. That just means your buyer's agent got you a really good deal and you paid less than what your home is worth. So you have nothing to worry about. You're walking into instant value in your property. We recently had a client in Del Cerro purchase a home for $1,085,000, and the appraisal came back at $1,150,000. So they walked into, what is the math on that? $65,000 of higher value than what they paid for it. So that was a huge win. That was a great purchase for them. The other thing that can happen when an appraisal is completed is that the appraisal might come in lower than what the contract price is for. So let's say the contract is for 750,000 and the appraiser says it's actually worth 700. Now we have some renegotiating to do. So now as a buyer's agent, what I want to do is have the seller reduce the price to 700,000. Okay, because that's what the bank's saying it's worth. The seller can do one of 3 things. They can either accept it, they can reduce the price to 700,000, they can reject it and basically tell you as the buyer that you have to pay the difference in cash, or we're going to come to a certain agreement in the middle to make both parties happy. Maybe the seller comes down to 710,000, maybe the buyer covers that 10,000 in cash, and we have a transaction to continue through. Again, if at any point we can't come to an agreement, you're still protected. You're still protected to cancel that transaction, receive your deposit back, and go and move on with your home search. Okay. Another contingency is going to be the loan. So the loan, before we go home shopping, we're going to do a lot of the legwork with Celina to make sure that we have all of your pay stubs, we verified employment, we know where your down payment is coming from. We've already checked your credit score, so that when we're actually in a transaction and when we're in escrow with an accepted offer, there's no surprises, because we want to make sure that your deposit's not on the line. In the event that maybe you lose your job, right, on day 14 or 15 or 16, now you can't get a loan, right? Now you don't have income. And so you're still going to be protected based on that loan contingency to receive that deposit back, to walk away from the home, and to, you know, reassess what your home buying options are at that point. Okay. These are all protections that, as a buyer's agent, I'm in charge of guiding you and I'm in charge of protecting you. Because if you're a first-time buyer, especially, you don't know what to ask, right? You don't know what the process is like. You don't know what you can and can't do. And that's okay. That is totally okay. We don't expect first-time buyers specifically to know every step of the process. And for that reason, right, now we have that commitment to each other to make sure we're operating as a team. We have the open communication. And at the end of the day, we're looking out for your best interests. Going back to that buyer representation agreement, if at any point I feel like, or you feel like, we're not a good fit, that contract can be canceled. Okay. Leslie and I and Celina and our team, we're never going to be the ones that are going to be tied to you to the hip because we want to make sure we find you a home. That's not how this works. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable with us as a team. And that's why we encourage you to interview other agents, because it can be a grueling process. It can be a stressful process. Sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4 years to find something that really feels right. And the last thing we want is for you to get your keys after a year of home searching, after a year of not wanting to work with us. And now that happy feeling, or that what was supposed to be the happy feeling, isn't that fulfilling anymore. And we don't want that. So again, if at any point we're not seeing eye to eye and we're just not connecting correctly, that's okay. We have other agents on our team. We have other agents in our brokerage. We have other agents in the industry that we feel confident that we've worked with in the past that can take care of you. So never feel like you're 100% obligated to that commitment if for some reason it just isn't a good fit. Okay. So now we're going to talk about what's actually happening. And I know we're running out of time here, but everyone's question is, well, what's going on in the market, right? What are interest rates going to do? What are home prices going to do? 2024 is an election year. What's going to happen? And so this will be a little bit of we'll do a 5-minute roundtable with Leslie, myself, and Celina to just kind of chime in on what we see in the market, what we predict in the next 3 to 6 months, and really maybe what we've seen in 2023 and how lucrative it's been. Leslie or Celina, does one of you want to start with that?
I can start if you want.
Yeah, either one.
So I think the biggest question is, we all have to live somewhere. And, you know, I've been in this industry over 20 years, and interest rates go up and down every day. The prices go up and down. And so, you know, we can't get caught up with that. We can't get caught up with, you know, I'm going to wait, because nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow. And so we always tell our clients is, when is the best time to buy or sell is when you're financially ready. And we really mean that, because if, you know, you right now might feel like, oh my God, these rates are 6, 7, 8%. I don't think I'll ever be able to buy, but you have stable jobs that you've been, you know, there for 10, 15, 20 years. You have a little bit of money saved. You might have family support that might help you with some of the down payment. I mean, let's look at all that. You know, what you don't know, you don't know. And until you really sit down and talk to a professional, you know, and find out your financial situation, find out your FICO scores, find out, you know, what you make and what you want to buy and things like that, you're always going to be wondering. And so we always encourage you to at least let's start the process. That doesn't mean you have to, just because you talk to a lender today, that doesn't mean that you're obligated to buy tomorrow. Because it might take you a year to fix some credit or to save a little bit more money. And so these are the things that this is why we're here. We're here to kind of start the process and kind of start educating you on this process. The other thing that we do know for sure is that landlords can basically raise your rent every year 5 to 7 to 8%, depending on how the inflation is. And so even though you've signed a 1-year lease, they can come to you and say, you know what, I'm in a hardship, I need the rental back, I'm going to sell the property, whatever that excuse or reason is, they can do it. And so the one thing that you can assure yourself when you own a property is that payment. Because once you buy a home and you can make the payment, because at the end of the day, it's can you make the payment? Because if you can't, it might not be your dream home. It might be a little 1-bedroom condo or a 2-bedroom condo to start off. But you know that your payment will be the same for 30 years. That's, you're in control of that. And so these are the things, again, that we need to have these conversations more. And so that's what I see happening. I see that there's opportunity coming because let's just say we're walking into 2024 and, and we're going to tell you, okay, you know what? The rates are going to be 5%. Then everybody's going to jump in. And that's when you don't want to be in because now, yes, the rate might be lower, but what's going to happen is now we're going to be overbidding and you're going to be paying more than what possibly your property is worth. So these are the things, again, that we just want to share with you. And I strongly believe that there's opportunities coming, but we need to be ready. And what I mean, we need to be ready is we need to have our finances in order. We need to start the process of seeing where we're at financially. And again, you might be ready in a month, or it might take us 12 months to get you in. So again, I always feel like it's the best time to buy or sell when you're financially ready. Another thing is people are buying. What you read and what you see out there on the news and what your neighbor's doing. And, all we know is what we have control of today is our financial situation. So people are buying, okay? We have a lot of baby boomers, unfortunately, passing. We have their children inheriting properties. They're selling properties. They're buying, units or what have you. And so there's a lot of equity out there. And I know Celina, I would really want her to talk a little bit about some of those numbers because believe it or not, people are sitting on a lot of equity right now. And so we have these conversations. I mean, we have people wanting to invest in a secondary home or possibly an investment property. And we're in San Diego. Yes, it rained a little bit today. We felt like the sky was falling, but people are moving to San Diego. We have big corporations. We have Amazon, Facebook. We have a lot of people coming in. And so again, it's just being on top of this and attending these seminars and workshops with us to kind of be on top of what's happening in the market. But that's just a little bit about what I see happening here in the next couple of years.
So just kind of talking about some statistics that are currently in the mortgage industry. So 60% of mortgages have a sub 4% rate, meaning 4% and under rate or lower, which causes sellers to maybe not feel the need to want to move, which is also creating this low inventory environment. So although we are seeing a lot of buyers come into the market, when rates come down, more buyers will qualify to purchase a property. If we don't have enough inventory, what that does is that creates a bidding war. and it creates for prices to continue to rise. So you can pay a higher price with a lower rate, or you can purchase a property at the current market value now at a possibly a higher rate, and then refinance when these rates come back down to a lower rate. But you have already secured a property, you're building equity, you're taking advantage of that tax deduction, and you just already have the security of not going into a market where there's more buyers and not enough sellers selling their home. So that statistic of 60% of mortgages having less than a 4% rate is really caused this low inventory environment. Although there are properties still coming on the market, but like Leslie said, more and more people are moving to San Diego. I mean, we still have in 2025, we have 4 naval ships coming to San Diego. Those are 2,500 families that will be coming to San Diego in 2025. So if they're not building sufficient amount of homes to sell right now, what we're seeing built is we're seeing more apartments, condos, more rentals than we are seeing actual single family residents that are going to be able to be sold in 2025. So they're preparing by creating more rentals than they are more houses to purchase. Another statistic that is really, really impressive is that this is a nationwide statistic, but the average tappable equity means how much equity you can pull from your home, still keeping that 20% in your home, is 200,000. That's nationwide. San Diego has one of the highest appreciations in the country. So that means that San Diegans have more than $200,000 in tappable equity in their homes. Since a lot of our sellers have below 4% rate, what they're doing is they're taking that money and now they're reinvesting it into another property, which is now we're creating more rentals. So do you want to be in a position to create more rentals or be a renter? You know, let's get you in a position where you're going to be able to, in the future, be somebody who's creating more rentals, generational wealth, and increasing your real estate portfolio as opposed to long-term renting. So these 2 statistics are really a driving factor on what decisions people are making in terms of buying and selling in the next year or so. We are expecting to see rates come down. I would honestly say between 5 and 6% by mid 2024, but realistically in 2025, potentially down to 5% is what they're predicting. It really depends on, you know, what happens with elections and so many other factors that have taken place that are out of our control. So just kind of knowing that rates will come down. We are seeing inflation starting to not be as high. It was flat this month's reading, which really helped these rates this month. The fact that we didn't have to, the Feds didn't raise rates because inflation came in flat. So there's so many factors that are indicating that rates will be lower come 2024. And so we look forward to that. But that's your opportunity to refinance. Now, something very important, and this, as a lender, I share this with you because it really matters who you work with as an agent. So there are programs that we can put you in so that the first, second, third year, your rate can be up to 3% less if you're working with an agent that can help negotiate closing costs, like the Perazas. We just had a transaction where we were able to do what's called a 2-1 buy down. This lowered our borrower's rate from 7% the first year. From 7% rate, the first year, her rate is 5%. Second year, 6%. Third and final year, it will be 7%. But by the second year, she will already be able to refinance into that 5-6% rate. So this program does take some strategic planning. And when you're working with a team, like the Perazas and myself, where we can really structure, communicate, and work through this type of loan program to help you so that homeownership can be more affordable. We can do a 1 year where the first year the rate is 1% lower. We can do 2 year where the first and second year it's 2% lower, 1% lower, or the 3-1. So there are options for you to lower that rate so that the mortgage is affordable until we can bridge you over to when the rates do come down, refinance you, and then secure you into a really nice, healthy payment where you can be comfortable for the next however long that may be. Okay, so there are programs. We're here to work through it. Everybody has family members and friends that there's this, that, or the other, but the loan is really tailored to you and your needs. So when we analyze your situation, it's very specific to you and what is going to be the best option for you. And that's what we are dedicated to doing, is making sure that we're tailoring the loan to you and that we're finding the right property and being able to communicate and negotiate to get these offers accepted. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll quickly open it up to any questions. And then other than that, we're available via phone, email, text, myself, Leslie, Celina, whether it's all three of us or individually, whoever you feel comfortable with, we'll be available. But any questions? No questions. Maria, Patty, Gavina, Victoria, anything?
So Luis, I have a question, because you guys do an amazing job, and I work with a lot of agents, but I've seen your team be the most successful out of a good handful of agents in getting credits so that we can help our clients with what is called a 2-1 buy down. How do you approach that? How do you know when we're going to be able to get credits or be able to negotiate that? Because like I said, I've seen you and Leslie be so successful at it, and it's always impressive.
It really stems from, so there's a couple sides to it. So what I start doing is I know that there's a solution to everything. Most of the time, there's a solution to everything. And when we're working with buyers specifically, and in this scenario that you're talking about, there's always a way to make it work. But it's all about, how am I going to sell it, right? How am I going to sell the idea? Really, I have to know what I need to talk to Celina. I need to talk to Leslie. I need to get creative with, let's say we're doing a 2-1 buy down, right? I need to know how much money I need to ask for. And it's really selling that idea to the listing agent and explaining it in a way that he or she can go and sell it to the seller. At the end of the day, the seller doesn't care how you finance a loan. They don't care how you get the money, because at the end of the day, they're just receiving a check, direct deposit, or wired to their bank account. And really the number that they care about is that number, right? How much is going to hit my bank account? And so it's really playing with the potential sales price, understanding what the home is really worth, and seeing if there's a margin that we can incorporate those credits for the closing costs. We're in a market where there's not as many buyers, and we're in a market where interest rates have affected for certain areas and certain properties have affected home values. So for example, if there's a condo complex in Rancho Penasquitos, and there's a unit exactly like the one that we just saw yesterday with the buyer, and it's sold for 640,000, and this one is for sale for 620,000. Well, I know that the value is 640,000, right? An appraiser is going to take a look at that price and say, I am willing to lend up to 640,000, usually, unless, they see some different trend. But now I know that between the 620,000 that the seller's wanting, and it's going to cash them out, a certain dollar amount, between the 620 and the 640, there is room to negotiate for a credit with the seller toward the buyer's closing costs or toward the buyer's program to buy down, that 2-1 program that you're talking about, and really make both parties happy. And it's open communication. I mean, the property that you're talking about, Celina, with that client, I think we were competing against 3 or 4 other offers, and it was really just conveying with the listing agent or to the listing agent that we were going to close at the end of the day. It's really making an agent feel like you have the ability to take that transaction to the finish line, because they're going to portray that onto their seller. And whether agents like to say it or not, we do have influence over who the seller is going to work with to a certain extent. It's our recommendation. They make the final decision, but we're the ones buying and selling 50 times a year. They're doing it maybe once every 5. So.
And I wanted to piggyback on that question and that answer, Luis. Being in this industry over 20 years, we've made a lot of good connections out there with other colleagues. And so at the end of the day, agents want to work with agents that have their stuff in order, right? And that they like. And so our success comes from how we approach the other side. And so it's having the buyer ready, having the loan in order, like we said, looking at the comparables, looking at the situation, finding out the situation of the seller. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that the buyer doesn't see. And so if the buyer walks into this home and says, Leslie, Luis, I'm in love with this property, what do we need to do to make this happen? And they're going to need some credits. It's about putting that together with the other side, and how are we going to make the other agent feel fuzzy, right? It comes down to the lending, the presentation, the communication, and it's working together as a team. And that's the difference between over 23,000 realtors in San Diego. We're proud to say that we've been nominated in the 1% of all these realtors for a reason, because we do communicate, and we do represent our buyers in a good way, and agents know that we're going to get the job done at the end of the day. So, I mean, that is what we bring to the table. It's really having that communication with the other side and with the lending. So it's a team effort.
It really is. And I think it's reputation across the board, and making sure that everybody is communicating properly is really what is a win-win for everyone. But today we did get some really exciting news that on the 1 year, like for the 1 year buy down, so say today's market rate is 7%, the first year you would pay 6%. On that program, we can actually use, we don't have to use seller credit. The client can prepay that up front, and we are offering free appraisals on that program until March. So that is definitely a great way to bridge that first year, where it's not going to be as expensive as, maybe the 3 years, prepaying that interest for 3 years, but just prepaying that interest for the first year to get your rate down 1%. 1% is a significant amount to help with purchasing power. So there are some great programs, like I said, just reach out to us, and we are here to help educate and support you.
Thank you. All right, last chance. Last call. Any questions? 3, 2. The recording will be available. We are going to be putting this on our YouTube channel because I know there's some people that didn't make it. So if you want to go back and watch this, we did have one that we recorded, I think it was in June or July. That one's up as well. This one will be up by the end of the night. And if you have any questions, please reach out. But thanks, everyone. We appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Until the next one in January, we're going to be having another workshop. So stay tuned for more information on that. Oh,
Right. Bye.
there's
Bye,
Patty.
Maria.
Patty. Thanks for joining.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Bye-bye.
Have a good night.
Good night. Bye.
We'll see you guys. Bye.